What is up, everybody? We are live again. It's Robert, real estate team leader, coach, agent, and of course, your host today on Scale Through the Fail. And I am so excited to bring you another episode because we got to talk about something that truly isn't talked about a lot. And I really think should be talked about more because we're in a rapidly changing real estate environment. So today I've got a special guest because there's not really many people at the high level in the commercial real estate world. So I went to one of the best out there, James Huang, who is going to talk about, is commercial real estate dying or is it on the rebound? So I'm going to bring in James and we're going to just have a blast. Hey, James, thanks so much for being here. What is up?
How you doing, Robert? A pleasure being here.
I am so excited to have you. James, you know what? We kind of just jumped into it. Normally I have longer introductions, but I'm so excited for us to just really start talking about whether commercial real estate is dying or if it's on the rebound. Because I think that, I'm on the residential side, but I think that over the years, we constantly see this elusiveness around commercial real estate. What is it doing? Does it exist? Is someone really a commercial agent? What does that mean? Well, now post-COVID, now the rumors and the information out there has just gone wild in the commercial world. And I said, well, let's talk about that for a second. So what I would love to do and start with is I would love to talk about you first. Why the heck are you in the commercial real estate world? And what's your background? How did you get here?
Thank you, Robert, for being here and kind of explaining and demystifying and a little telling my story and journey. So with me, when I studied, I'd have to say, was going to be a doctor, but instead I went into banking and finance in New York with one of the major Wall Street banking firms. So from there, learned, the analysis, the due diligence, how to hustle, how to work hard, how to do a lot of things as Wall Street kind of teaches you. But when I was going to make this transition, I did portfolio management with pension funds, and then I made that transition into commercial real estate. I worked under a private company, and that's kind of how I learned, because I was very fortunate to work under the CEO as kind of his go-to, run around, do whatever he wanted me to do. But working with such a great mentor allowed me to learn and see all aspects of commercial real estate. So that was kind of my foray from trying to go into medicine, going into Wall Street and finance, and then showing up into a private commercial equity group.
What a wild transition too, because so many of those do not complement each other, at least on paper. Now, when you left your Wall Street buddies behind, we'll call them buddies, what did they say?
It's funny how Wall Street and finance people look at the commercial real estate, even though it's a very large business, very lucrative, how wealth is actually transferred and built in America. But they called it the lowbrow business, right? Because I was getting my hands dirty. I was in the weeds. I was connecting with people rather than pushing buttons or bidding and buying, sometimes millions or billions of blocks of shares, or, bringing companies public, right? That's Wall Street. So by coming in, dealing with clients in development, finance, leasing, sales, of all these components of commercial real estate, they said that's the lowbrow business. But I say, hey, the lowbrow business, sometimes the tried and true is sometimes the best business, because a lot of good things happen with the brick and mortar or the hard assets. Let's say the hard assets. It is something we could touch and feel.
I love the point that you bring in, because I think a lot of us who had very unique backgrounds in real estate and then got into real estate, before real estate and got into real estate, had a lot of the same judgments. So I want to ask you something personal. You had this Wall Street background. It doesn't make sense, again, on paper, for you to go, you're around people who called it, commercial real estate in general, the lowbrow business. So what went through your head to where one day you said, I'm going to leave Wall Street to go do something that my peers, in many ways, look down on? What happened to your head? What was that transition?
Well, I'll just tell you, the transition was with a woman. So it wasn't that I wanted to leave Wall Street, but geographically moving is what made me change from that business. And then looking for a alignment, which portfolio management and real estate management, management's management, looking at numbers, looking at the finance. that was understandable to me, but a W-2 job, right? And by doing that process and learning is when I said, I want to take the chance. I don't mind hustling. I don't mind meeting people. I don't like engagement with people. I don't mind that. So I wanted to, and this is how I made the transition from, I always say, a W-2 to a 1099, learning the systems of how and why and building your own business and career, because most 1099 were entrepreneurs, right? Unfortunately, we learn on other people's dimes and we are in the business, but later on, some success of learning the business, creating wealth, investing in wealth, creating other companies, is then we started working on the business. So that is some of the big changes where many agents, they learn this business, but they're in the business, not on the business, working on strategic plans and scaling, because you're outside the business when you don't work anymore, or you're not there at the, plugging in and running around, but money is constantly coming in. That's why I believe, the passive cash flow investments, passive investments,
absolutely,
creating that money and not living too expensive, right? That we know everyone, first commission check a lot of my friends did was buy a car, right? Buy that fancy car. But some of I'll tell you, some of the smart ones that we train, they bought their first multifamily apartment building, and that's where their cash flow, and I'm not going to name names, but some of our people that learned and listened to what we did are very wealthy now.
That is awesome. And I love hearing your perspective on that. I love the fact that you're talking about that when you are trying to accomplish the goal of wealth, generational wealth, it's so much bigger than just a transaction. You have to create something that operates with or without you, because we are limited by ourselves, by our own capacity, hours in the day, health, family, environment, weather, even. Oh my gosh, my internet goes out because a tornado just happened, right? Well, crap, did I just lose my business? Or is my business still moving forward? And I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say, especially in the commercial world, that's even more important because it is focused on business and investing and growing portfolios and those types of really powerful relationships. So let me ask you this. What, in your opinion, because being where in the position you're at, I'm sure you come across residential agents all the time. What would you say is one of the biggest differences between a commercial agent and a residential agent, whether that's mindset or something like that? Like, tell me what you see as a big difference between them, because there has to be a difference, hence why there's so fewer commercial agents in general.
Yes, and I've met very many successful residential agents. It's just where you prioritize and focus your time. But I would just say most of the good commercial agents are full-time all the time. And they're always improving their craft and skill, right? Because that's one of the things that I've noticed in all commercial real estate, because there's so few of us that we call true commercial practitioners coming from the big companies. The longer you stay in the business, the smaller the world becomes and the more people you know within this industry. And that's why you could pick up a phone and almost verify anyone. While in the residential, you may be able to do some bad, stuff and hide, because it's so hard because there's so many residential agents. But in commercial, there's so few of us, and many volunteer, go around, we mingle, we go to different events, we see each other at different conferences, that everyone knows everyone. So the issue in commercial is keeping your nose clean, keeping and doing what you need to do. Those relationships are so key. But this is one thing I love about commercial. If you do it right, not do it quick or fast, you can build a very sustainable long-term business because of the relationship, contacts, and friendships, develop over years and years and years of just cultivating it.
I love it. And I think you make a really good point about the closeness of the commercial world, because even from the residential side, which is where I'm predominantly spending my time and my efforts, but I work with a lot of commercial agents. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot proportionally, because there's not many. They all know each other. I could be like, oh yeah, you know that guy? And they're 100 miles away and they're like, yeah, I know that guy. And I'm like, you know that guy? Yeah, we did a deal. Why? Because the grouping is so small that there's a good chance that you'll see that person again. If, like you said, they do it right, they're full time, they're actively doing this, they're going to be the ones on one side of the deal. So,
Exactly.
So when you're talking about commercial, let's talk about something that's hard. What do you think COVID did to the commercial world? And then after that, we'll get into what we think commercials looking like kind of post-COVID and in the future. But let's focus on, from your perspective, what do you think COVID did, good or bad? What do you think it did to the commercial real estate world?
Well, first, we don't wish COVID on anyone, and a lot of suffering and a lot of damage was done. But what it did for the commercial real estate world was accelerate everything. A lot of models and habits were changed because of COVID. People didn't go back to the office like they used to. Clients that we used to have to fly to see, to meet in person, didn't want to always see us. They didn't mind a Zoom or a way we're communicating now, or a virtual world, or other ways that were not directly physical contact, right? Because that's what happened over the 18 to now 2 years of working this way. So habits, new systems, new technology has been formed that allows agents to either use it or not use it, and to have that competitive edge. But what this has done is really change patterns, change habits, and change ways that people interact. And really spawned new technology that people are using. Now, we always say, to reach around the world. I'm having contacts all around the world: South Africa, India, China, Korea, in Europe. I'm having these calls when before we wouldn't do it. We would do an old-fashioned call on phone. I don't see their face, or I'd have to fly out and spend a day or two or longer, a week sometime if it's international travel, to see people. But these have accelerated and changed habits and spawned new technology.
So it's really interesting that you say that. And honestly, not in the scale that you're thinking, but I would say that the residential world has significantly been changed too. In fact, we even teach a class, some of my partner coaches and we teach a class about how to get buyer's rep agreements signed over Zoom. Mm-hmm. We teach about it. A couple years ago, that would have never even been Zoom. Zoom what? Like, let's be honest, right? Zoom what? Unless you're working in a corporate office that used it. No agent used Zoom. What would they use it for? They go meet the person at the coffee shop, at the brokerage, at the title company. They meet them at their house, whatever. And now you've got people who are doing Zooms. They're doing virtual walkthroughs. The virtual world's changed. And I told people, and I teach this a lot, is I say, one of the best skills you can learn right now is how to build trust over the internet.
Yep.
If you cannot build a relationship with someone online, I think you're going to struggle to keep up with the people who can.
And Robert, that is great. And I always say residential has always been the forefront of a lot of movement, adapting to technology, adapting to social media. And I think commercial needs to always look at what the residential are doing. Not everything is applicable and useful, but there are a lot of, ideas, concepts that, whether it's tweak or direct applications, we could use from what residential has done to apply to commercial, to give those open-minded commercial agents competitive advantage. So everything you're saying is incredibly true. And because of COVID and the time that most of our commercial agents and teams got to sit at home, we figured out and innovated and created other ways of doing things, especially with technology. You're right. I didn't even have a Zoom, prior to 2019. And then later on, I was Zooming all day long. I Zoomed so much that, I was going to pass out some days because I had 12 to 14 Zoom meetings, because you could be everywhere at one time.
Amazing.
It is crazy. But you're right. If you can figure out, and everyone's looking of how to build relationships, connections, this intangible that everyone says you always got to meet in person. If we can figure out how to translate that and make it that stickiness and that work and how that could work, that is incredibly powerful. That will really change, because commercial real estate is a very strong relationship business. They always say we're golfing together, or we're in the country club together, or the yacht club, or some club, or a university or something. But if there is a way to translate and build those friendships, relationships through a virtual technology, amazing, very powerful.
I love it. This is just so awesome. I love talking about this subject because I get agents who come to me all the time that are asking about the commercial world. Oh, I want to get into commercial. And I have to go through the process. And I'm not a commercial expert, but fortunately I have people like you, people that I can learn from and lean on that help me to teach them and guide them But the reality is that there are certain rudimentary skills. They have to be humble. They have to be willing to learn. If they're not willing to learn and grow, I can't help them, because everything I have has to be to someone who wants to be taught, or everybody I have to connect them with. They have to be willing to learn from teachers. So what do you think going into the future of commercial real estate? Two questions. One is, what do you think the outlook of commercial is? We've talked about that it's changing, that it's adapted, that it's growing. But what do you think it's looking like in the next year or two? And then with that, what do you think are some core qualities that agents need to have to dominate the changing commercial world? And we kind of talked about one already, but let's start with the outlook of what you see for commercial real estate.
Well, commercial real estate is always evolving, right? Like before, right? Multifamily in certain areas, you always need a home. People started moving out of certain high dense areas because of COVID. They didn't want to be close to neighbors. They wanted more open space, right? So a lot of migration, immigration, things do happen. Also, changing of our habits with technology, e-commerce. I remember when it first started, people were like, I'm not buying something from Amazon. How do you know it's going to show up? And for the hell of it, I bought something small. It showed up. Granted, it wasn't in 2 or 3 days like it does now. It took a week or two, but it showed up. And as more and more time, and COVID did accelerate that, people started shopping, buying groceries online. I mean, these are the craziest things. And people getting used to these new patterns, but that changed how real estate was being used with now industrial or warehouse buildings, hubs, right, within major cities, so they could have distributions, logistics. It has changed right now because, unfortunately, with COVID, the hospitality industry has changed, right? The office industry has changed, but doesn't mean it's going to go away, but they're all changing, right? It's now, we always say readaptive use or best use. Now, what is this property going to be used for? So a lot of times with consultants and other commercial experts, they take a look at it and analyze what can be done. And sometimes, in retail, they said some of these malls or locations are gone, right? They can't use it for something, but people are being very creative on trying to solve the puzzle. And I think that's one thing about going on to a second of commercial real estate. It's really people that like math, like numbers, like problem solving, because there is so many more moving parts in commercial real estate and so many other experts that you need to work with as a team. And that's very different than residential. There is so many other components and parts that you have to interact with that makes it interesting and fun. But when you say what will evolve a new agent in kind of the 21st, 22nd century, technology. Most people are smart. You got to have good and understanding of embracing technology. You got to be obviously teachable. You got to be almost thirsty and hungry to learn. And one of the things I always say, I can't help lazy. You always have to hustle. That is just the price of admission. When people say that, oh, I want to do commercial real estate so I can work 3 or 4 hours a day or whatever they said, I'm like, probably not for you. Right? Because
not for you.
To get a W-2, get a job, get a paycheck, because you're not going to be able to compete with certain individuals like that. Even maybe you pay your dues, then you build a team. Look, sure, you can take some time off, but most people that love this business, we always call ourselves deal junkies. We love this business. We love talking shop. We love hustling. We love meeting new people. And I encourage people to reach out to me to catch up, because I love to talk about these deals or concepts or ideas. And I'll just tell you this, like how we first started in the industry, it does take a year or two in commercial real estate to get to where you need to be. You need to be teachable, but you also need a mentor. With a good mentor, what you're trying to learn accelerates your time. And I always say, don't worry if you're paying 50-50, if you're paying a certain dollar amount for a coach, as long as they are aligned and they really care about your success. That's a big one. You got to make sure that they care about your success and they are aligned with you, and not just, I want to take some money and you're free, work for me to make a commission. Don't like that. You want somebody that really genuinely cares about you and your success, and not worried if one day you become the competition. But those are the people you need to look for, right? Those are the people you need to look for. And I think this is the greatest thing. Once you make your money, you start creating new co's, new companies. You start investing in real estate. You start diversifying. You start doing so many things. You become that entrepreneur. And
I
that's
love
what's
that.
fun about commercial real estate. And we're paid to do this on learning with somebody else's deal, but that's just the beginning of the journey. But those are the things: being teachable, understanding, embracing technology, having a good coach or mentor to guide you through the way. And one thing that you said, Robert, accountability. You got to do and put in the work all the time, every day. Some people, it drives me crazy. They think tech, or when you were talking, what about these, what do you call it? Referrals. I just want to work on referrals. Well, if you don't have the knowledge, you haven't done the deal, how are you going to work on referrals? You're going to screw it up. And because the commercial is so vast, from transactions to leasing, different property type, business op, finance. I mean, there's so many parts. You need to do it yourself, learn the business, then you can figure out how you want to improve and what lanes you want to stay on to get bigger in this business, and not just say, I just want leads to come to me, because sometimes I feel that's a lazy answer.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's something that I think as humans we struggle with, but also I think we see a lot of people feeding that mindset of, I will provide success for you. Excuse me? No. How do you control all of the real estate market, commercial and residential? Do you control the world's economy? Do you control the weather? Do you control currency? If you can't control those factors, then stop trying to feed the idea that leads equals money. Leads doesn't equal money. If you can't convert, if they're not even real leads, if you're not in a place to where your margins are profitable, like, there's so many factors. And some of the takeaways that, you're talking about when we talked about outlook and qualities and characteristics, one thing that I love that you said is the narrow-mindedness has to go away. You have to now, you can't just look at that office building and say, okay, I guess that's an office building, and so therefore offices go in it. You have to look at it and say, what can we do? One of my favorite examples is someone, a partner of mine, who found a hospital that was at that time closed, and they turned it into an apartment complex. Yeah. They already have bathrooms in it. They already have individual rooms. They already have pretty much all of the features and amenities of a apartment complex. Mm-hmm. They had to look at it differently versus trying to repackage the same product. They had to look at it. And so it sounds like you're saying, listen, going forward in commercial real estate, every time you look at an opportunity, try to look at it from all angles. The highest and best use of the property versus the most obvious one.
Exactly. I 100% agree. And getting experts around you, getting the local experts, building these relationships before you need them. So when you do ask for help, they're there for you, right? And sometimes even before asking and getting, like, I got a referral for you, I got some knowledge for you, always goes a longer way than, what about this? Give me this. Tell me this. Give me off-market deals. Give me, right? That just kind of drives me crazy. Then building friendships, relationships first. The rest will come, right? Absolutely. And finding and aligning the best in class and the best in your industry to work with. I think if you do it and take those approaches, you will have a long career in any business, but definitely in commercial real estate.
So let me ask you this, James. What do you want to see happen in the next few years for commercial, not just for EXP commercial? What would you love to see? Like, I have my own vision of what I'd love to see in the residential world. What's your vision of, I'd love to see the commercial real estate world move in this direction?
Well, this is one thing that most people who know me is really the diversity, equity, inclusion, right? Because there's not as many women in commercial real estate and the different services of property management, appraisal, and other parts, in addition to people of color. But I also said this, I don't like to exclude anyone. I like to include everyone and create opportunities. So that's why, if people that came to our virtual summit, right, like farmers in Middle America, there's the FFA, and I love the organization that I embrace, because I always say, inclusion and opportunities. If we could all include everyone, work together, and that's what I'm trying to do at our firm, is to get everyone to work with each other on projects, to learn about each other, to work on projects to build and to help our communities. That's what I would like to see. Of course, I'd like to see the success of our firm changing the way commercial real estate's done, but I would like to include more people, right? So they learn. And now with this virtual aspect, we can reach out, we can talk to more people, we can educate more people. We're bringing down the cost so we can add more people to create these opportunities so people from different cultures, backgrounds can work together and learn. And hopefully, I always say the best thing is get someone so great that they thrive and they say, we learned from this platform that were able to change the world, and we learned and we took whatever you built as a platform to the next step. But that's including more people. And that, for those that know me, and I don't know, I do kind of say it a lot, but that's what I would like in the next 5, 10 years, or as long as I have. And I always say the big change is, I've always been in this industry. I've watched it. It wasn't always easy. And I embraced and built relationships with a diverse background of people. And I did have mentors that were mainstream, that were, the old boys club, but without their help, I wouldn't be here today either, because they helped me move up, educate me, guided me, mentored me, and showed up when I needed a guest speaker, a coach, or a keynote. They were there for me. So it is playing it forward, Robert.
I love that. I love it. I'm a huge advocate for, paying it forward. It's a huge reason why I've aligned with the people that I've aligned with is, in many ways, I thought I was one of the few good guys, let's say, in real estate who wasn't trying to, I have teams and I've worked with brokerages and now an organization. And I felt that there's a lot of look out for yourself first, but at the cost of other people. Well, I'm a Christian first. I'm very open about this. And so for me, I always go, okay, who made arguably the biggest impact in the world? You could say Jesus, right? Regardless of your beliefs. You could say, oh, well, Jesus, he went out and blah, blah, blah. How did he do it? He served others. And so I'm very practical. I'm like, all right, well, if that's how he did it, then let's take that approach. Let's go serve others. And in the process, make the impact, the influence that we want to have. So James, now that because we're getting close to your time, I know you got to go soon. And I've loved our time so far. We have 2 games that I love to play on the show. They're really fun at the end. One of them is called Problems and Solutions. It's not very catchy. I'll think of a better name eventually. But the point is, I'm going to give you some scenarios, and as quickly and as efficiently as possible, you're just going to answer them. These questions, been writing them as you've been talking, kind of things that trigger that I know people are wondering in the back of their head. And then after that, we're going to play a fun little cheesy game that we're going to have a ton of fun with. So problems and solutions, getting into that. Okay. So again, I'm going to ask you a question or give you a scenario, and then you're going to try and answer it as efficiently and as quickly as possible. All right. So you ready?
I am.
All right. We have seen millions of instances of lead gen companies in the residential world. A commercial agent comes up to you and says, James, I need to build a book of business fast. How do I lead gen in commercial? What's the most effective way to lead gen in commercial right now?
I would just say using LinkedIn and social media to connect.
LinkedIn and social media.
Yeah, that would be the very quick one that I've seen, and I try to stay on top of it. And I'm sure there's new tools that I'm always learning, but I see that is a quick way to build relationships, contact people, and it's really the follow-up. But that is the quickest way in social media. I see you have to use it. You have to put yourself out there like what we're doing now.
That's amazing. I love this, and I couldn't agree more. All right. A brand new commercial agent comes up to you. Literally, they just got their license. They're just wanting to do commercial. They have no desire to get in residential. And they go, James, I need a book to motivate me, to inspire me, to give me an overview, whatever, just to get me in the mindset of real estate commercial success. What book would you recommend?
Ooh, that's hard. I read a lot of books, and I would always have to just say, reading any book does help. But I do read a lot more of the philosophy, or actually, I'll tell you, Sun Tzu, The Art of War is what I do read, or the Book of Five Rings, or The Prince. So a lot of times I like strategic, so not so much the mechanicals or technical, because that's, to be honest, pretty easy. But it's almost like how you run business, how you do other things. So it is the art of war where I use it and apply it, because it does make a lot of sense. Even though it's written thousands of years ago, it is very applicable in so many parts of life and business and things that you can do, because it is very strategic.
That is awesome. So you probably say something along the lines of like the art of war or something like that, just for that strategic mindset, which honestly goes hand in hand with what we talked about earlier about thinking outside the box, looking from every angle. So that's awesome. All right, next question. We're talking about the future of commercial real estate. We talked a lot about technology. So what would you say? And you can say EXP, you can say not EXP, and it's a tool or platform. Doesn't matter. This is fine. It's truly your opinion. What is one of the best tools that every commercial agent should be plugged into right now?
Ooh. Well, I would say, I love our company with our virtual world, the metaverse, but a lot of times it's what we're using right now. Some type of communication, seeing the visual of the person, whether it's Zoom, Google Meets or something. That's what people use, because it's relatively available. It's easy processing powers. You can use it on your mobile. And we always say the most things is a tool that's not used, or if you don't use it, it's useless, right? So we are using this, and this is the start of, as obviously with Zuckerberg, with the metaverse and all that's attention. I think tons of money is being piled into that space right now. Of, as I was talking to friends in the 90s, we said, website, what's that? Now, right now is, you don't have a website, you're almost not a real company. In this metaverse and the virtual reality world is almost like the websites almost 20 plus years ago, where they're going to say, where's your world? Where's their way? And I do see that eventually all the worlds are going to be grouping together. More interaction, commerce is going to there, networking, dating. Well, we even seen at EXP a marriage happen. So a great shout out.
Yeah.
So it's cool and it's evolving. But the one thing is, it's always staying that open-mindedness, creativity, and learning. Because before I even came here, I went to all the EXP or other events to learn from others. Maybe I didn't join. It took a while.
Getting in front of people is what you're saying. If the number one technology platform, it's the old joke, the one you'll use, right? Go out there and put yourself in front of people. YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, StreamYard, which is what we're on. Whatever you have to do to get in front of the people you want to be in front of, go be in front of them. And that is your best technology platform.
That's right.
All right.
The one you use.
Next one. This one's fun because I've wanted to ask this for a while, and it goes perfectly with what we talked about, diversity. Diversity. I started talking to people in commercial real estate to learn more about them, their feedback, their honest opinions about it, because I love to learn and I love their experience. And I've talked to a few women, and all of them had very similar stories. So now I'm going to give you the scenario. A woman comes up to you and says, I've been interviewing brokerages to get into commercial, and all of them have told me, don't bother. It's an old boys club. What would you say to her?
I'm going to prove you wrong. Women can do it in higher capacity. Usually the ones that do make it, because they're stronger, thicker skinned than the men, they do better and outperform. Find a strong woman that you want to be and team up with her, learn from her. Not to say that the men, and many of us are very diehard supporters, but learn from the strongest women of who do you want to be when you grow up, be them and better. Sometimes the best and people that are confident will want you to be better than your mentors, right? Because that shows your true success. Yes, but I would say, I will prove you wrong, and reach out to me, because I would love to help align, whether it's with our company or with others. But that's the whole thing, as we embrace and help each other connect, because sometimes you just don't know who you don't know, and you don't know where to go. You don't know who to talk to. And there are great women trade organizations like Crew and others, women's group, but also the diversity group in all the trade organizations and universities and colleges. And we hope, one of my missions, as I said before, is to help open this up using our Verbella and our virtual world platform to educate, teach, connect people all around the world so they can learn this business, to create these opportunities to help and serve your local community.
I think that's awesome. And I love hearing that, because I like breaking the myths, dispelling the myths. That's someone's insecurity and fear talking every time they tell you you can't. I'm all for someone saying realistic expectations. Hey, listen, getting into real estate isn't a piece of cake. Here's some realistic expectations. But to look at someone that you don't even know and just based off of gender, race, or financial status or whatever, and tell them that they will not succeed is mind blowing to me. All right, I got a real fun one for you. Ready for this one? Last one for the question, problems and solutions. All right, and I answer this anyway. You can even say I don't know. This one I just randomly thought of because guess what? I don't know. Virtual commercial real estate. I have seen it. I've heard articles. I haven't fact checked them. I don't know if it's real, but I look at it and I go, okay, but crypto is real. So why would I look at virtual real estate in the commercial world and say, maybe it's not huge yet, but it doesn't mean it isn't real? What are your thoughts on virtual commercial real estate?
I am always inquisitive. I'm already working on a panel in our virtual world to talk about blockchain, crypto, NFT, decentralization, and also the virtual lot, like what they sold at Decentraland and everything else. So I am enough to be dangerous, but enough and connected with friends that we are bringing experts within this world to talk to us. And do we need a presence? Do we need to place our banner, our flag in the virtual world too, to say, as a technology company, here we are, right? But being smart, how we do it. But the first process is learning from people better than yourself. And we are working on this right now. Hopefully January, maybe February, where we will bring experts from around the world to talk about these topics. But
See,
I love conversations on this already. Yep.
That's amazing for me because the truth is that while most, and I mean this in a respectful way, I'm not dogging anybody, but while most brokerages are trying to just keep things as is, almost like falsifying the process. And I mean that respectfully. I get it. It's scary. It's fearful. I have my own fears and concerns. There's certain things I won't touch because I can't handle the risk management, right? We all have our different risk thresholds. But I love the fact that as a leader, you're saying, listen, whether I am an expert at it or not, I'm going to learn. I'm going to evolve. I'm going to surround myself with people who are experts. We're going to figure out if there is a way into this that's profitable and that makes sense. And if there is, how do we make a pathway that other people can follow? I think that is awesome. And I really appreciate that about you because there's not many people out there, I would say, in a brokerage sense that are trying to pave that way. But guess what? It's happening whether they like it or not. It's happening whether we like it or not. That's why I'm talking to you about it. That's why I want to talk to you more, is like, I want to know what's going on because I'm not the smartest guy in the room and I don't ever want to be. All right.
Well, we said you need to change rooms, right? If that's what happens, right? You need to surround yourself by obviously smarter and better people, but also aligned, working together, collaborating, because that is very powerful. A group of experts aligning with a mission and purpose. So I love that.
Now we're going to have some fun. This is just a goofy little thing that we do at the end. And it's just to be lighthearted. If you can't tell, I love to talk about serious topics. I love to talk about controversial ones, but I also love to just smile and laugh and have fun together because at the end of the day, you enjoy the place you work where you have the most fun, where you love the people that are around you and they make you smile and you make them smile and you just have a blast. So I have this fun little game that we play at the end. It's called Our Moments, and it's relationship cards for couples.
Okay.
And so what I do is I randomly draw a couple cards, and the cards will have a question. It's meant for couples to build relationships together, but I've done this with every guest because I just want us to have fun. And so we have no idea what kind of question we get. It could be really deep and sentimental. It could be sad. It could be happy. It could be romantic. And you just answer it any way that you want to, okay?
All right, Robert, shoot.
All right. All right. Here's a fun one. It's about you. What hobbies did you enjoy when you were young but no longer do?
Ooh. You know what? I would have to say martial arts. When I used to take it pretty consistent that in my 20s, I wanted to be a badass and be able to do anything. And I've learned all sorts of different styles. But as I got older, it's unfortunately, and I don't want to make excuses because it is, all right, a time, everything else, and the commitment. But I did love, my time that I spent 15, 20 years, just in martial arts and learning different disciplines because it was fun. But I think it was a younger man's body sometime. But a lot of the philosophy of martial arts stuck with me, right? And I like the principles and the discipline it did teach me. So that's what I like.
Did you do multiple ones, or was there a particular main one?
Shotokan, Taekwondo, Muay Thai, Krav Maga, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, a whole bunch of stuff.
I love that.
Yeah, just fun stuff.
For me, Tang Sudo, Yoshikai, and then a little bit of Muay Thai and mixed martial arts. Because once you get into Muay Thai, it's almost always bleeds into mixed martial arts. So I had a blast. I don't compete anymore because I'm tired of getting hurt. When you win, you end up pretty hurt. And what's so funny is I tell people I played soccer for like a total of 18 years, and they asked, okay, you were, in a gold league, which is like borderline semi-pro. And they go, why'd you quit? And I said, I got injured once and the injury never went away. Yeah. It never went away. And I said, what about the next injury? Because it's going to happen. It absolutely will happen. And so I kind of got out of there. Okay, next card. What do you need to let go of, and how can you do so? Ooh, fun one. Another one about you. Deep here.
Okay, let's think about this one. Well, to be honest, I'm actually pretty good at letting go, forgiving, moving forward. And I would always say I learned it through a lot of gratitude, gratefulness, being happy and content where I'm at. So it allowed me to move forward very well. So I know maybe it's not the answer of how to do it, but I would always say through the hardest time in the 2009 recession, when I hit rock bottom, I learned to be very grateful of life and enjoy the moment, and not always the future, but that journey. But the moment always matters to me. So being very grateful and happy all the time, no matter where I'm at, I'm pretty even keeled and very happy all the time, and very, very little will disrupt me, even some bad situations. I'm human. I always say take 24 hours off before you respond or make any comments, especially if you're hot. Take that 24 hours because your response will be different.
You're very wise for saying that. I've made a lot of mistakes that had I just calmed down, took a deep breath, had some reprieve, allowed time to pass, and then responded, and then sent that email that I should have never sent earlier. That caused so much confusion and chaos, or having the dignity to not do it by text and stuff like that, and just say, listen, we need to talk. We need to talk. I think there's miscommunication. All right. One more question for you, and then we'll wrap this up. Oh, man. All right. This is fun. I'm really curious how you're going to answer this one. What 5 things do you enjoy doing with me?
With you?
With me.
Well, let's say this. The conversation, right? Sharing. Oh, boy. I don't know. There's constant emails through workplace. Try to connect. I mean, that's all it is, and I guess the next step is maybe meeting in the virtual world now, Robert, right?
Yeah, let's do that.
Maybe that was only 4, but I look forward to our next conversation as a segue into our next episode. But I look forward to the next conversation we have.
Oh, man, you are awesome, James. Okay, so the last thing is, now that we're wrapping this up, if anybody's listening and they have questions about the commercial world, obviously they can leave comments on any of the platforms and I will get the notifications. But what's like the final thoughts you'd love to leave any commercial brokerage, team, agent, someone thinking about commercial, just some thoughts, food for thoughts. Hey guys, here's my kind of, what do they call it? The end card. What's the, trying to remember, the news reporters, they have the exit,
the headliner or something,
the tagline or something. No, it's like sign off. What's your sign off for any commercial people listening right now?
Yeah, be curious, get yourself out there, learn, And if you're interested, finding a mentor or somebody that really is aligned, that cares in your success, to be partners and take the journey. I love it. From 25 years ago, it's a great journey and something that I wish I would have learned about earlier, because to me, it fit.
Dang, James, you have been incredible. And I'm really grateful that you took the time to do this. There's not many people that I would say are terribly influential in the commercial world in a public sense, that are out there and accessible. So I appreciate that with all of your influence, with all of your knowledge, with all of your wisdom, that you were willing to take the time to be accessible. I quite honestly, listen, I'm transparent. I didn't think I'd reach you. I didn't, because I just assumed that in the commercial world, people aren't accessible. I just assumed, because that's the way that I had seen prior brokerages that I was at, they were not accessible. And so I just assumed that that's the way. I didn't even know that there was commercial leaders, to be honest. And so the fact that you got back to me so quickly, the fact that you were willing to pour into commercial brokerages. So I just can't thank you enough for your willingness to share, to grow, to support others. So I appreciate you. I cannot wait for our next episode. It's going to be awesome and so exciting. For everybody listening, please leave a comment, write a message. Don't hesitate to reach out with any commercial related questions. We'll get you answers. We'll connect you to the right people, regardless of where you are and what stage. It does not matter. We've got someone, something, some resource, and we are an open book, and we'll share with you. James, one more time, thank you so much for being here, and I cannot wait for the next episode that we get to do together.
Robert, it's a pleasure, and thank you so much for this time.
I appreciate you. All right, everybody. That was amazing. Thank you so much for tuning in. James is incredible. I cannot wait to hear from you all again. And please don't hesitate to reach out. And thanks for tuning in for another episode of Scale Through the Fail. See you later.